Squirrel-proof feeders have been around for a long time. There's a lot of different types. The idea is that you have a feeder that the squirrel cannot eat from, and as opposed to using a baffle or something. One of the types of squirrel-proof feeders that I think has been most effective over the years is looks kind of like a metal mailbox or something, or a dumpster with a lid on it.
Do you want to grab one?
I will show you one.
Yeah, I have this feeder, and it does work.
Now this is one of them right here. You can open it up and put the food in it. It's steel, so they're not going to chew this up. They can get all over it. They can't chew it up. Why does it stop them? When they get on, I just tore their feeder up. When they get on the feeder, their weight is much more than a bird, so it closes that down. You can see that I can reach in and get the food, but when they get on it, they can't get the food.
These are also great for the really big birds that'll come
You
raid
can
your
adjust.
feeder. Yeah.
You can adjust the weight on these things so that it's much lighter, and something like 2 starlings or 2 grackles will get on it. It'll also close it. And they hold a lot of food. They seem to work pretty well, and they're very effective against the squirrels. And on this model, sometimes you might see one who's very good hang here and get a seed or 2, but not really. This is one way to go that's good.
Yeah.
These may run somewhere between $40 and $60.
Yeah.
But they're very effective. And you can put them in a place that you couldn't put other feeders.
Yeah.
Like within real close to a tree there or something, or a porch that they can jump from.
That's true.
As long as they can't stand on something and reach through that treadle up there, you've got them.
Yeah.
It's going to work. I've used these effectively for many years.
And we've also got tube feeders. Yeah.
Tube feeders, you've got ones that look like traditional feeders, but they'll have a wire mesh over them or a solid tube over them that moves with the weight of the squirrel to cover up the ports all up and down like the tube feeder. Same principle, just done differently.
You have an example to show us.
Just so happens.
Just so happens. The Squirrel Buster Plus.
Squirrel Buster, this is one I like a lot.
This is great.
It's a big tube feeder. It works well. It's got an adjustment in there for the spring tension. As you can see, it looks like a regular feeder. There's the holes where the bird sees at. But when a squirrel gets on it, you can see that. That comes down, and all the squirrel gets is solid metal. They can't get to the food.
Yeah.
These are also very effective, hold a lot of seed, and the birds feed off them very well, which is also important.
Right.
Squirrel-proof feeder, if the birds don't like it, you've lost right there.
That's true.
But this is another good way to do that. Here again, it's not inexpensive. I don't know exactly what they are, but
that looks like a pretty durable feeder.
but they do well. They hold a lot of seed, and they're very durable. So that's an excellent feeder. There's also a version of that feeder which has a metal wire screen around the outside of it that moves down. Similar type thing, same principle that everything drops down with the weight of the squirrel, but there's just several varieties of it. Now do we have other feeders?
That looks like it on the feeder. I know we've got some other things here that we can show, but I think that's it on the feeder.
So that's squirrel-proof feeders. There's a group of them that we saw maybe 7 or 8, 9 years ago came out that used some type of electronics to shock the squirrels if they got onto the feeder or tried to get to the ports. Those are somewhat effective. Excuse me. They're somewhat hard to maintain. They're not super effective for a couple of reasons, but they're out there.
Yeah.
That's another way. And
Did you want to get some water?
no, I'll live through this, I think.
Okay.
And there's also a feeder that a lot of people have seen over the years called the Dro Yankees Flipper. And you've seen this on YouTube, I'm sure, all over the place, where the squirrel gets on the perch, and mechanically, when the perch comes down, it activates a motor, spins the perch around till the squirrel flies off. It's also a very good feeder, somewhat expensive, but it's fun to watch. One of the things I remember about it is someone got one, and they were excited, and it started stopping the squirrels. It stopped the squirrels. The person came back and complained. I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "Well, they don't ride it anymore."
Yeah. Yeah, if
Well,
you're
yeah,
getting
they-
it for the entertainment, guess what? They'll learn.
They just quit coming to
Yeah.
the feeder, and it
Yeah.
worked. It did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yeah,
But that person was unhappy with it.
they didn't like that little ride too much, huh?
And so there's feeders that work very well.
But they're not cheap, right?
They're not cheap. And let me mention right now, speaking of they're not cheap, when you're trying to stop the squirrels, don't go cheap. You can find stuff, baffles and feeders and the like, that are cheaper. You might be throwing your money away, because if it's too cheap, it's just not going to do the job it's intended to. Because there's a lot of people in this market, they're making products as cheaply as they can, but keeping them effective. And some people don't worry about the effectiveness, they just want to make it cheap. And I have seen one of the metal feeders I was talking about earlier that had come out in some of the discount stores, and this is some years back, but it looked just like, sort of like what I was showing you, but it was smaller, obviously cheaper. Well, the squirrels just sit on it, reached right around it. It wasn't big enough to stop them from reaching around. And so it was totally ineffective. But
Yeah.
the store sold a lot of them.
Yes.
And people said these don't work.
Yep.